So Jessica will be included in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
That should be recording now. Here we go.
Yep.
Perfect. It seemed like it was going to be such a long time before we got together, since we agreed on the date, and it's been flying by. It's incredible to know that we're halfway August now. But I'm very happy to have a bit of time with you. Bernadette, I'm not going to take too much time, up to an hour, I hope, and that will be it. So then you can get on with all the other stuff. But it just felt good to kind of get in touch with you guys or girls around Dogma Detox. First, I would love to kind of see how you're doing with it, if you've used it more or not, if you've come across any challenges, if you've got any questions. And then from there, I'll take you through something that I've been doing more and more. I've witnessed myself seeing not just one thing, kind of applying it differently, but also another thing as well that has come up lately. I just wanted to just share it with you, just as a added application of the intervention method. And you can do with it what you want, but it felt nice to do it because I've been training another consultant coach consultant actually in Australia. And I noticed that the way I was training him was already slightly different from what I've been doing with you. So when I flagged that up for myself, I was like, yes, this is the change. And I actually changed even a few bits in the script because of that as well. So I'll send the script as well, so you can see where I put the extra lines in. And I made a few other little adjustments, tiny, but you will see where they are. It's just to refine it all, basically.
Didn't you say you made a new method where you say what if and what if not?
Yes.
What do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so we'll go into that in a minute. I first would love to hear your experiences because it gives me more input, and maybe from there we actually naturally will go into the new applications as well. Who's pinging?
It's me. All the emails coming in.
Oh yes.
Sorry for that.
That's all right. That's right. So in terms of since our last catch up and meeting, how are you doing with Dogma Detox? How does it sit within your toolkit? What have you noticed in terms of results? What have you noticed in terms of challenges? I'd love to hear anything. It's all relevant. So in terms of Dogma Detox, just chatter and see what comes up.
You want to start? Shall I start, Bernadette?
Start. You will start.
I don't know when we discussed it last. Actually, Dogma Detox became a regular method in my coaching sessions. Sometimes also with persons I know personally or in a private context. Whenever I have the feeling there is a dogma or there's something that needs to be looked at further, I go for it. So and sometimes once I decided not to use Dogma Detox because the client was a woman. She is a bit strange. So I decided not to use it. One client, she's a psychologist, I told Bernadette and Priska about it, was very interesting because even when the images showed up, the dogma created new images to hide. It was very interesting. It was kind of really, I had really to be very, very much with me and be very, ask here and there again. I had the feeling there's something that was very interesting. And one I had right before I went on vacation was that I did Dogma Detox with a priest, and I had the impression he didn't really believe in it. So I'm not sure, there is my question, does it work or not if he doesn't really believe in it? And then on a personal level, I had the experience also that then sometimes I think more about my own dogma, and then it's like a wave. And sometimes it's just not so much that I think about my own dogma. So in general, very interesting. Fine. Yep.
Right. Thank you. And in the beginning, you said, when you notice that there's a dogma there, how do you know?
I just know. Yeah, I mean,
if you were to tell me, as you know, I'm completely clueless in terms of Dogma Detox. If you dumb it down in a way, so you tell me like, well, this is actually what I notice. Do you understand? What is that? What is it that you notice?
Yeah, I mean, the client. I realized that the client is stuck in stuck again and again and again at a certain point. I mean, sometimes I do not do it in the first coaching session, but then I realized, oh, he told me something similar before, where he got or she got stuck in a situation, or it's even the wording that comes that it's at different points that I realize that there is a point where he or she comes to the same situation and can't get over it. So, and sometimes I just ask, do you want to make an experiment, or do you want to play a bit? And then we just go for it. It's different, but mostly it's just that I realize, for example, with the priest, I wasn't sure, should I do it, should I not? And then I said, I realize here you come again and again to this point, shall we play a bit? Huh? So that is often...
Interesting what you said just now in terms of with the priest, you didn't know whether you should or shouldn't do it. Was that before you actually suggested it? Was that before?
I thought about it before, but he is, I had this, and I'm not sure if he took, we did it actually twice in this session, and he wanted to do it again. That was interesting, but I had always had the feeling he doesn't take it really seriously.
Okay.
He didn't really, but it took me nearly a year before he opened up.
Oh, really?
Told me things. So we have first was, it is I don't know. I think it's also a priest thing, and they do not talk about themselves easily.
Sure.
And yep. So.
Okay. But there's a couple of things that show up. One of them was, the context in which you apply Dogma Detox. From my work, also my other work, for instance, the journey, we did that throughout all different cultural backgrounds, religions, anywhere. The only thing that you want to kind of take into consideration is that, especially from a Dogma Detox point of view, there will be a lot of dogma in there. With the journey, it was a lot of emotional conditioning and belief conditioning that people grew up in or were raised and educated in, and therefore, once they open up to something else, that can be actually, it can be very scary. It actually, in terms of Dogma Detox, dogma will then fight back. It will say, whoa, that's too scary. Stay with me. So it might need, in certain contexts, and with a priest, because you've already been with him for a year, it might even be still a matter of, hey, it's called Dogma Detox, or, we're looking at something, rather than using the word dogma, which, by the way, is
No. Okay. I never use the word Dogma Detox.
So you know what I'm pointing at. So it depending on the context, what kind of words you use, you will sense what is a way of playing, or maybe it doesn't work, or it's somewhere where you say, okay, let's explore together, and just give them the permission that if it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't work out, that's fine too, but let's play together, let's explore together, because I have a sense that there's something there and I might be wrong. So kind of putting it back here again, so he, and especially his dogmas, don't feel threatened straight away. It's
what really open. He told me he had images and he let go, but still there was something where I felt so.
Yeah, it can happen. I've had clients where we were doing it, and then they went through it, and I said, so what do you see? What do you experience? Well, not much. And then, it kind of was very flat. But then when I gave it some time and lost my own expectations as well, really unsubscribed from any kind of ideas of how it should be, then there was always some change happening, funny enough. And I said, and
something. He also saw something, and he would let go from something. But then in the retrospective, he said, well, I don't know, well, let's see. So it was...
Sure. So then the mind can come in because it has to comment on something that's already taken place. And I always take people back to the body. I said, so how does the body feel, Well, a bit more relaxed. I said, great. That's all that we need to know right now, because before it felt tight or there was some tension there. Now it feels more relaxed or open or neutral or whatever it is. There's already some change there. Just leave it at that, and we'll get back with each other, connect back, in a week or whatever. And yeah, sometimes the shifts are very minimal, and sometimes it's like bang, it's just like literally one little thing, and it just changes their whole life. So you just don't know, you really don't. Mm-hmm. Nice. Cool. Thank you for sharing that, Bernadette.
I think it hasn't changed much since we talked the last time. I usually use it in coaching session when the topic is right, and I got in the situation and the feeling that it could match and it could be helpful. So I really like it, and it's great. And when you ask Ursula how she get the feeling that this is the right method, I was thinking about it is something like general words which shows up something like this is usually like this, or my expectation on this, and it shows up in a circle. Then I'm just jot it down and work with the coaching process, and then when it shows again, and I'm quite sure there's this point where I can deepen the coaching process. And often I ask, wait, let's do and doing play and work in another way. And it was nearly 100% it works. Nearly 100%, yeah. And in the one-to-one session, it's really, really great. Sometimes I say, I'm not quite sure about now, but when I came back 1 week later, and I often do it in a context that I'll say, okay, you will not feel it right now, but be very achtsam in the next few days, what will happen in your body. They came back and said, hey, I do not know, but I was very tired, or I was really excited, and I feel something very strange, and this is something I take it at the next level. It has worked. Nice. In a way. Yeah, I really like it. And then I had 3 times the opportunity to do it in a group session, and this was really a new experience for me. The first time I was really very careful how I put it in the group session, because the topic was about we do not know why when we have some action plans for and we decided all together that we do these actions, that doesn't work. Always if we come back 4 or 5 weeks later, nothing has happened. We always commit on the action, but nothing follows in the reality. So I going with this group very carefully whether there are some dogmas within this group. And it was a really, really good session. And it was so easy to find these play rules within this group. But in the beginning I said, okay, we will work in another way. So it was really a good context. The second time, I do a group session, and I do something that all these 50 people sitting there do their own Dogma Detox. So I just go through the Dogma Detox, and everyone in a very slow way got their own process. And I was really excited that all these 15 go with me, and I ask it step by step for the permission, and go further and further, and it works very well. And the third time doesn't work very well, and it was a really good experience for me, because I didn't put my attention on frame this very good, and put it so that it is something very special, that you more work with your body, that it is something you have very careful step by step. And I mean, they do not know the word Achtsamkeit. So it doesn't work in the end. They say, oh, doesn't happen so much, and well, doesn't work, and they're really didn't know what to do with this experience. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was really very nice. Yes.
And you're sure that it was because of the pre-frame that wasn't clear enough that they didn't go with you?
Yeah, the pre-frame, and it was too hard to go and work in another way. So in the beginning, we work on explanation and actions, and something like you do in a business context, yeah? And then I say, okay, let's go further with another thing. It was too hard, this next step. But it was an experience for me, and so it's fine.
So when you... So the context of the coaching, and therefore what was asked, was slightly different from what Dogma Detox would do. Is that what you're saying, or not? What I'm just trying to hear what really happened there, just for my understanding as well, because I have similar experiences like that, and I'm just referencing it against my experience. So was it the case that you were in this group coaching session where it was about action plans, it was about, more cognitive, and therefore that was what you were there for, and therefore that was the process that was there, and then you tried to add in Dogma Detox. Yes.
This was a problem, I guess. I thought it could be something helpful, that they could deepen and has another aspect, and found another aspect, but it was not really framed, not the really context. When I did it 2 weeks before in another group, it was another topic, and I did it very carefully, step by step, and go with them very, very slowly. So it was something completely different. Right. And it's something like we do in the one-to-one session. You really find carefully the point where you can add it. Sure. So if you do it in a business workshop, you cannot just pop it in. It is not a method. And this was the experience I got out of it. Yeah. So it was fun for me.
Yeah, it's a good learning. I've had it as well. It's. I think I shared it with you during the training as well. But it's once there is some kind of subtle or not so subtle hidden agenda within us, then it actually works against the actual energy of Dogma Detox, because Dogma Detox is really about unsubscribing from how things should be or what the end result should look like. So if in us there's something in life that says, oh, it would be great for them to do a Dogma Detox because it might deepen their experience, or it might, then there's already that expectation which works against the grain of Dogma Detox. I've seen that as well. I've tried it with people, and I had to learn that even when the dogma is so visible, they've even mentioned it like 3 times, and so right there, and said, hey, does it work for you? And they say, well, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, great. And I gave them even all their own words back to them, saying like, this is what you told me that creates all this stress and all this, this friction, and still you tell me it works. And I said, yeah. And I was like, I tried it then to push it through and say, let's try something to release that stress, and it worked. And the minute I said, okay, what do you want to do? Well, nothing. It's like, okay, great, do nothing. Then somehow there's not enough leverage yet for them to actually go through with it, or Dogma is therefore still too much of a valid subscription for them.
Yes.
Which can be true. So then, hands off, and it's but it's a good look. I told you, I think that I was at BMW where we were asked to come and then present. What do we do? Blah blah blah, and then they wanted, in our sales meeting, they wanted to know, how does this work? And we thought, great, so let's show this. It went horribly wrong, completely wrong. Because it was completely the wrong energy for it, and I didn't ask for their permission. It was like, okay, great, this works for everyone, including here. Now let's show off to BMW headquarters that this is going to be and it was just horrible. It really. Yes,
and you said the right word. I catch it. It is a wrong energy, and this is, you cannot really explain. You have to feel it, like Ursula said. You feel the point that the energy is right for this.
Yeah.
Yes. This was at the third workshop. It was not the right energy.
Yeah.
And it was something like in my head: should I go? Should I not go? Go. Okay. And I say, okay, do it. And it was not. My feeling was it was not the right point here.
Yeah. And then there's just something in us that overrides it and says, okay, let's try it anyway. And it can happen. Can happen. Cool. Thank you for that. Very valuable, valid feedback. What comes up with that as well is that I worked with a guy, clients, it was last week, I think, and he doesn't believe in technology, which is a real interesting thing. So he doesn't have a phone, he doesn't have emails, nothing. And he wanted to have a coaching session. In the coaching session, he just wanted me to just give him different perspectives, which, by the way, is also Dogma Detox. It's kind of, you can offer people basically the question, oh, really? When they say this is how it is. Dogma Detox in its essence is, can you know this to be true? Oh, really? Is that the real truth of it all? That in itself can be hugely eye-opening to people. So that's what we kind of did with each other, until I found that he was still flip-flopping or ping-ponging between two kind of polarities. So I was like, okay, all my Dogma Detox flags went up, and I was like, I want to see if I can do something with him here. I said, are you willing to do anything? Yes, sure, anything. And then we dove in. But the thing was, he doesn't believe in technology. So when we came to the unsubscribe button, I could feel it. I could feel it with him. He just sat there. And I was like, oh, this doesn't work at all. And I was like, okay, so if there was a way to get released from this, by unsubscribing or in some other way, I said, unsubscribing, I don't really know how that works, but I tell you what is happening. And he had like a big bag of sand that was actually basically the weight of the world on his shoulders. And he saw it and he said, well, actually, I've already opened it and the sand is actually now kind of flowing away. And the wind is blowing it away. So, oh, great. So how does it feel? And then you could see his whole body and energy kind of change right in front of me. And afterwards I said, so how was this for you? He said, yeah, I didn't know about the unsubscribe button because I don't know what you mean. So it's really interesting because I had that sense because he told me two things about technology, and that was it. And then once we're in the process, it was like, oh my God, I hope that he can see it, that he could get a sense of it. And it still worked, funny enough, but in his own way. So it was good in terms of the context. It was good again, to learn that. Good. Let's go into the things that I wanted to share with you as well. The extra thing. One of them you already talked about, Ursula. You touched on it. Was the charging. What I've become aware of is that sometimes when I give people the stage to just chatter, blah 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 blah, and then I'm there to listen to the words and etc. Sometimes it kind of took me a long time, and I got a bit agitated because the dogma then shows up and it starts to kind of fluff fluff everything up. So it's like, it becomes very vague. There's no clear entry point. And when I first did it, when I first noticed myself getting sort of fed up with it, I was like, what's going on? I was like, I'm asking for Dogma to tell me why it's relevant. Now, somehow I was giving Dogma the space to tell me why the subscription to it was relevant. And therefore it gave me all these blah, 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 blah stories. I was like, so what if I could tell my clients that that was not an option? What if you had to do the exact opposite? What if you had to kind of not believe that anymore, but the exact opposite of what we've just been talking about? How would that be? And then straight away what shows up is there's a fear showing up, which sometimes they talk about, but most importantly, what they will say is like, well, then it means such and so. And literally the minute you charge it in that way, Dogma really shows its head. It's really interesting. So I started playing with that more and more and just kind of refining it a bit. And basically what it comes down to is literally going into a charged condition. So I'm saying literally, so what if you had to do this? You know, if people say, I cannot commit to the action plans that we agreed on. I somehow cannot commit. And it's like, so what if you had to commit? What if there was no option of not doing anything with it and you had to literally commit to it and take action and really, you know, put it into action? There was no way of holding it back. What then? Well, then it might mean such and so. What if that were true? Literally, what if that were true? So basically, you're giving them a different reality, and Dogma has to fight back. It will go like, no, stay here with me. Seriously, straight away. So it literally is as simple as I say it. It's like they give you a sort of a reality, and they say, well, this is how it is. And you say, well, what if it is the exact opposite of that? Or if they say, well, there's well, what if this is this is the exact opposite? What if this were true and that was the only option? What then? And it literally straight away you see them kind of go inwards, and there's like you can sense that there's an emotional response coming up, which funny enough is a good sign in a way for Dogma. It's actually something where your flags can start to come up as well. And then if they say, well, that means this, and it's like, well, if that were true, what then? And it's like you combine a bit of the zooming in questions that we use with that charge, and it's almost scary to see how quickly this actually works.
And then you do also the rest of the process?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Because once the Dogma has showed itself, you can even check if you need to go a little bit deeper in terms of if that were true, what then? If that were true, what then? Just to see what the real Dogma is. In my experience, once you get really in there, you get clear, like, wow, this is what he or she has been saying all the time. What if the exact opposite were true and that was the only option? This was the only thing. This was the only reality. What then? It's like, oh my God. And it actually, you're sitting so close to the Dogma itself, to the core of Dogma, that it will show itself quite quickly anyway. Like the words will show up and you go like, oh, I can feel that. I hear that. And then they say, that doesn't even make sense. You know, you get that kind of response again. That doesn't even make sense. And it's like, no, exactly. But that's the whole point, you know. You have a feeling that your mind cannot believe what is actually keeping you stuck, but here it is. And then you literally take them from there into the whole, the further unsubscribe process. So whatever is needed. I mean, in the script itself, I think here it says.
Could we do an example, Arnold?
Say again.
Could we do an example?
Yes, sure.
So.
Yep.
Shall I tell you something, maybe?
Sure.
Or?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, maybe when I'm in a situation where I'm not so secure, I prepare something, I go deeper and deeper into the subject and do not stay on the topic anymore. You understand me?
Yeah. So you go deeper and deeper into the detail.
Into the detail to find security or to find the truth, I don't know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in general, what would that give you? Why is it important?
It's important to get security again. I've tried to find security in the details and forget to go on the surface again.
Okay. So
I lose myself in the details.
So what if you could not do that anymore? What if you had to stay here and not take care of any of the details? As a matter of fact, those details will never become even available to you. What if you had to stay here and that was the only option? You could only stay with what you've prepared without further details. What then?
It would feel like swimming in a sea, drowning maybe.
Okay. And if that were true, what then?
Sorry, I'm not really in the energy.
Okay.
Maybe it was too fast.
No, there's nothing too fast or whatever. It's just Dogma trying to fight back. So if you were swimming in that way too big ocean, there's no security, no safety, because you cannot take care of the detail. What then? What does it mean about you, about life, about your work?
I think after a while I would get a cramp.
You would what?
I would get a cramp.
A cramp.
I couldn't swim anymore. Krampf.
Yeah.
I think I couldn't swim anymore. I would drown.
Okay. So, in a way, not being able to take care of details equals what?
Drowning.
Okay. Okay. Now, this is an interesting thing because here you've got the exact opposite, right? So we charged it, but now I'm going to come back, funny enough. There's a way in which I want to come back to that thing that you're doing. I don't know why. It just shows up that way. So if not taking care of details equals death, what do you need to do in order to avoid that?
Go into detail.
Okay. So if it's an interesting one. Okay, so here's only if I can take care of detail, I will avoid death, right?
Yeah. Dizziness. Yeah, my head's dizzy. Mm-hmm. Everything is spinning.
Okay.
I cannot think anymore.
Okay. So we're right on the mark here. The question is, what do we want to do with this? So we can either unsubscribe from this whole thing, which is an option. The other thing that I think we just touched on, but I'm going to do it here again, is the taking out the middleman, taking out the condition. Do you remember that? So I'm just going to ask you, and you can do it with your eyes open or your eyes closed. If there was an ideal outcome, something that would give you the exact opposite of death, that would feel different from death, but it would also not be linked to any harder work or whatever. There's just an ideal outcome in terms of your preparation. What would that feel like? What would that be like?
Lightness and playfulness.
Lightness and playfulness.
Yep. Secure to be able to, yeah.
Okay.
To be on equal level, maybe again, or yeah.
Okay. When there is lightness, then what?
Yeah, then I can be on the surface. It's there's joy, good energy. It's like a dance.
For that, do you need to do anything, or is it already available to you?
I think actually I can do it.
Now check if I take away that whole idea, that whole condition of take care of the details, knowing that you are already in touch with that lightness, that joy, all of that. If I were to take away, like steal away that whole idea that you need to go into detail, then what?
There's emptiness at the moment. It's black.
Good. Give it some time, give it some space. And what else do you experience?
It's feel like falling. It's black.
Good. Keep falling.
There's nothing to hold on.
Good. Just give it some more time. Keep falling until something else becomes part of your experience. Just let yourself fall. And what else do you experience?
A bit anger and resistance.
Good.
It's this fear and darkness.
Good. Just give that some time and some space as well. What's here?
It starts to be lighter.
Good. When you give that some more time, some more space, without knowing where it will take you, just exploring here. What else do you become aware of?
Somehow I'm a bit tired, but relieved, a bit relieved.
Good.
It's like lying down and relaxing now.
Good. So then taking a nice deep breath in and out. Knowing that that relaxation can grow and develop over time, while the tiredness is leaving the body as well. The tiredness that was linked to holding on to these different ideas of how to be secure and safe. You can take another nice deep breath in and out. You can just allow your eyes to open when they're ready.
Yep.
Okay.
Interesting.
There were two things in there, and I couldn't let it go because of that. Good. There were literally we charged first, and there was something saying, it cannot be this. Something else needs to take place. And it was actually funny enough that taking out the middleman. So there was this already getting the body and the system used, which in a way is also a charge, used to the exact opposite of what you've been experiencing. The experience was, I need to go into detail because that gives me security and safety. You know? And it's like, well, if there was an ideal outcome that was not like that, but basically like this, what would that be like? And it was light and whatever. And it's like, great. So now if that's already available to you, which you said yes to, and we peel away that idea of having to stay in detail, what happens then? sometimes you straight away go into lightness and energy and all of that. I've seen that. That was the first time when it happened with Detlef, funny enough, the first ever time that we spoke even about Dogma Detox, that happened. Sometimes you get this free fall, which you also know from an unsubscribe. It's like, oh, here I go. Where am I going into? Beautiful. And then, funny enough, you reach that relaxation and tiredness, that relief and relaxation and tiredness. And yes, very clear to me, because the tiredness has been linked to always trying to go deeper and deeper with the details, zooming in, taking personal responsibility for the actual outcome of the preparation.
Okay. So to go on the meta level, you say, okay, what is the opposite? And sometimes you don't need to do anything and the opposite is already available.
Sometimes, in terms of taking out the middleman, means taking out the condition, which is always dogma. Only if this happens, then that can take place, right? Which is also part of the charging. That's why it was so easy to go into the charging version in an unsubscribe as well, in just the regular Dogma Detox process. Because basically what we're saying with charging is, well, you say that this is the reality, but what if it were this and you had to stay in there? What then? And it's like, Dogma comes up, says, not okay. Now that's the same with taking out the middleman, because what we're literally saying is, in terms of details, only if I take care of the details, then I will feel safe and secure and therefore okay about my preparation. Always saying, well, what if there was an ideal outcome of your preparation? Well, that always exceeds or supersedes, I think, as well, this idea of safety and security. It's like I feel light, I feel confident, whatever it is. In this case, lightness showed up. So great. So if that is the case, that's what you're looking for, really. But something tells you, no, stay here with the details, dig deeper with the details, and then at least you feel some safety and security. As where actually what I want to experience is that light. So let's get the lightness. It's like, oh. So how does that feel? Oh, there was joy, there was relief, there was great. So now the question was, is this already available to you? Actually, you already unsubscribed from your dogma right there already, because you went straight to it, right? And it's like, well, it is actually already available to me here. Now you can even leave it there. It's like, wow, okay. So you can then check from that lightness, you can say, okay, so now if this lightness, from this point of lightness, you would look at preparation, what would that look like? It's like, oh, I can look at details, but it's not the only way, something like that would show up. So you can use that to change sort of the programming. In this case, it was just like I wonder what would happen if we literally, in that lightness, knowing that this is available, that we peeled away that Dogma Detox, or the dogma that was there, saying taking care of the details, just as a place, see if it's still there or not. And I was like, whew. And actually it became a big thing. It became a big free fall. So therefore, only thing that happened is I let myself be guided again by what was speaking even louder than just the charging, and what was even speaking louder than just taking out the middleman. It was actually going back to that condition and saying, well, okay, we'll pull it away. Now what?
Okay, so actually two processes.
We did. That's why, and I it's just what had to happen. I couldn't say, well, let's just do this, because it showed up so clearly. But there was two things in the mix here. So therefore the charging, as literally like, if this is the reality, great. So what if it wasn't? What if this is your reality? What would that feel like or be like? What does it say to you? It's, oh gosh, it means this about me, this about life, this about my work. That's the charging. With that, once you've got the dogma there, you can just go into, hey, does this work for you? Are you willing to unsubscribe? Bang, bang, bang. It can be as simple as that. It would probably have worked as well. The other thing was very simple, the taking out that condition, taking out the middleman, where you said, well, okay, so the condition tells you, the dogma tells you, just take care of detail, and therefore you feel a bit secure. It's like, well, what is actually the ideal outcome of you having a perfect preparation? It's like lightness. Great. So there's just something in the middle trying to tell you that, well, lightness is not really available to you. but there's at least some safety and security there. It's like, okay, so is this already available? Can you already feel this? Yes. Okay. Basically, right there, right then, you've already unsubscribed because it's right here. And then you can use that again to say, okay, so what if this lightness could reflect on how you prepare? What would it tell you? You could use that as the leader, the leading factor in a way.
Okay.
Yeah, is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. It's funny as well.
The process is now clear to me.
Good. In the process, in the script, I've added the charging question there as well, and it sits under the zooming question. They're called optional questions, and you'll see it. And the zooming question is, if that were true, what does it mean? What does it mean about you, or even about life? If that were true, what then? The charging question, which is named that way as well, says, if that was the only option, what then? If you could not do or be that, what then? So you cut off that possibility and say, what if it's this? Not that, but this. Kind of take it away. You heard me use the words from both questions, from the zooming in plus the charging together, which is, in all honesty, what you start doing more and more anyway. Probably you've experienced that already in working with Dogma Detox. You kind of mix and match. You kind of, play with whatever wants to come up. As long as the intention is clear, then it's fine. Is it clear for you as well, Bernadette?
Circled a bit too much around. Maybe I have to read it or listen to it later. It was a bit too bong bong bong.
It was.
I could follow.
It was, and that's, with all my apologies. I mean, I'd love to give you straightforward, this is how it works, and then something else showed up because we're live in terms of working here. Basically, charging is really about when they say, in your case, well, we cannot commit to these action plans, or we cannot take action on what we agreed. It's like, then the question is, if you had to, if not taking action was not an option, if you had to just commit and take action, well then there is the risk that we're doing it wrong, that we get told off by our manager, senior manager, CEO. What if that were true? Well, then, what does it mean about you or about life? It means that, I'm a failure. Okay, so taking action equals being a failure, or could lead to failure, taking any action. Well, that in itself, if you think about it as a dogma, taking action leads to failure. If you zoom out and not look only at work, but look at everything, it's a paralyzing force. It's a real big thing. If you really, really contemplate what it means. So yeah, great way of then saying, is that working for you? And then going through the unsubscribe process. So that's really the key of the charging. The charging is really saying, well, I hear all this stuff. Yes, you cannot commit. Yeah. So what if we go the exact opposite? What if you had to? What if there was no other option? You had to. There's no way of holding back. And then sometimes what can happen as well, by the way, is they say, well, that would feel so good. Literally what is then happening, funny enough, is they already go to an ideal outcome. It's like they're already sort of cutting out the middleman right there. And then you can play with that, because then it's an open-eyed conversation, which have happened with coaching clients who weren't necessarily willing to explore self-inquiry. It's like, okay, so tell me what that would look like. If it was already happening, you feel like this. What if that were in charge and it would give you the next step and the next step? What would that be like? And it's like, I would do this and that. Great. And if you were to commit to that, when could you take action on that? Right now or tomorrow. Okay, let's create an action plan for that. And then I'm going to hold you accountable for that. But basically, you've taken out, you let them go to that ideal outcome that somehow they thought was not achievable. So once they say, that would be amazing. even though you thought, oh, they're going to tell me like that's scary, you know, but it's the exact opposite. It's like, no, it feels great. Great. Use that, and use that as a starting point for, okay, so how would that take place then?
Mm-hmm.
Would you do it, for example, Bernadette has the workshop and it's more on the, let's say task-related activities, and suddenly this pops up. Would you play with it right away? Like you just did?
If the context is there, it would be great to at least check if they're willing to go there.
Because, I mean, at least I'm often at the point that you feel, okay, there's something also in a group, and then you have the option yes or no, and then just play with it.
Yeah, and because Dogma Detox is not just about the unsubscribe process with eyes closed and all of that, free falling in emotional blah blah blah. You know, that can be something that is much more relevant and will show up there for much more in one-on-one conversation. But in a group setting, you can have the open-eyed conversation like this. So you could actually, there's multiple ways of going with this, but the thing that I was just talking to Bernadette about is like, once you charge it and say, so, you know, tell me, I understand, I hear that you're telling me like why you cannot commit, you know, something is holding you back. Are you willing to explore a bit further? Because it feels like there is something holding you back, but I want to get clear on what we can do here. It's like, sure. It's like, so tell me, if you had to commit, what if there was no way of holding back? And literally, you can have an open-eyed conversation, and you can even write it on the board. Some people will have different relations to that kind of dogma. You know, it can be a cultural dogma, actually, a systemic dogma that shows up. But they all have their individual relationships to it. So what I've done before is I would write down all the different dogmas that would show up. And you can then say like, hey, you know, does this even work for you? It's like, no. Are you willing to let go of it? Yes. No. So are you willing to commit to, and then you can, you know, put a big red line through it saying to let go of this. Yes. So check with yourself. What does that mean? If you did not have to be linked to this anymore, subscribed to this anymore, what would that feel like? Whew, I've got freedom to finally be an entrepreneur in my own job. No? Great. So if that were true, well then, what is possible? Well, then I could take action on this and this and that. Great. So if that were true, what then? So you kind of, it's like it's a natural conversation that can take place. Some other people might have a very negative dogma show up, if you want to call it negative. It says, well, that means that, you know, I'm full of shit, or that I'm a failure, etc. It's like, great. So then you can play with that. You can play within the group setting. You can, again, check like anyone else has this kind of idea showing up. Like, then I would fail. Yes, I do. You don't have your hand up. Tell me, in relation to failure, how does it show up for you? And it's like, well, it's not failure, but I feel like I will be punished for it. And I have to, you know, I will get sacked, you know, I will get fired. Great. So what would the words be like for you? Well, if I had to take action and I fail, then I'll be fired. Great. So you can write that down. Whatever that is, it can be different for every single person. And then you can still even say, hey, can we do like a little mini process? We're just going to see how this works for everyone. You know, there's no right or wrong. Are you willing to play? And then see if we can literally unsubscribe individually from all these different dogmas that collectively have one big thing in common, which means we're not taking action. You know,
so how did you do this? They each one made a cross on the word, or
a bit like what I understood as well from Bernadette is that you can actually take them then through the script. You can literally take them through the Dogma Detox process there.
Okay.
But they use their own words. So while you're saying, you know, let that energy come up, you know, that dogma that says, you know, it's hard to commit, and however that's true for you in terms of failure, you kind of repeat what's on the board or what you've written down. Like, however it's true for you, in terms of failure, in terms of being fired, in terms of, you know, whatever it is, check how it shows up, give it a form, give it a shape, and then you go through it that way. So it gives every single person, as Bernadette already did, what I understood from her, the possibility of having their own process in relation to that collective theme.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yes, some people might have had that kind of, that happened to me, where some people said, well, I didn't have the negative connotation. It was more positive. So they actually cut out the middleman already there. But I had something else show up in relation to this theme. So I used that for unsubscribing. Is that okay? It's like, well, did it work? Yes. Great. Because it doesn't matter what the actual words are. It's just literally in that moment, it's like, this is what is alive in them. This is how they experience that energy. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's much more straightforward one-on-one, obviously, even though it wasn't straightforward with you now, because we did different things. In a group setting, you have to take into considerations that it is a collective dogma and everyone has got their individual relationship with it. And to leave space for it, and to, the way I see it, to never make anyone else's perspective of it wrong. Because basically it's also, that could be, you know, working against dogma as such as well. It could tell dogma like, you know, you're not okay. And then dogma will start to fight back. So it's like trying to include everyone in it, to just explore together, and you'll feel the energetic change. Was that true for you as well, Bernadette? When you took them through it, did you feel a kind of a different energy in the room after that as well?
Completely different.
Yeah.
When I do something in the first one, I let them find dogmas which they could share, what they shared. So there was 4 people looking for this, another for this dogma. So they have a shared view on the dogma. So they are different in the room, and everyone created their own extinction process and ritual to let go, and it was really funny in the end. There was such a nice atmosphere in the room afterwards. Yeah.
Great, nice, nice. It also, funny enough, as we're talking about this, it takes me to that second thing that I wanted to quickly share with you, but we touched on it already. It's like sometimes there's this whole energy showing up. And we've been talking about it, we've been exploring it, you know, in group setting or one-on-one, but it's like, it's all of it. It's like, I don't know if you've had it happen where a client said to you, I got so many memories show up with it. It's like this and that and such and so. And I see all these times in my life that this was true, and that I see it in my relationship, but I see it at work, blah, blah, blah. And it becomes this whole energy of it. I'm at that point, when I hear that, and I can feel it as well, I'm no longer interested in finding the few little words that will capture it all. I said, bring on the whole energy. Does it work for you? No. Ready to unsubscribe from it? Yes. Great. Let's do this. And then I literally invite that whole energy, okay? And I've had it happen more and more, because the stiller you get with people, the more you hear how close the dogma sits to their core identity. And because they sit so close to their core identity or personality blueprint as such, it will have affected a lot of their life. So literally, it will bring up all these different memories and all these different experiences, and they see a whole timeline. And I've had it happen probably, I remember it with you, Ursula, that we had it happen in at least one of the processes that we worked together, where that happens. I'm not sure with you, Bernadette, if that was true as well. I have it happen once every 4 or 5 Dogma Detox interventions, where literally it's so like, oh God, that's been true my whole life. you know, and it's this and this and that, and they don't have even words to describe it all. It's like, right, bring it all. And sometimes it even is passed on through generations. I've had that happen and worked with it more and more as well. And it's like, oh, I've seen this even in my parents. My father used to do this, and my mom used to do that, and my grandfather's like, great, bring on all these memories, including the experiences of your family before you, you know, your ancestors as well. Just literally just bring it all.
So you do not work exactly on one dogma, so you work on the whole feeling.
If they've been feeling really restricted by this whole energy that is, you know, the first start with giving you, you know, you get specific with the context, so they give you a specific stuckness. And then when you keep talking, and all of a sudden it's like you open up all these lids, you know, it's like all these barrels get emptied out with lots of things. And it's like, when that happens, great, just bring it all, just open it all up, and then say all of this energy, all of this dogma that has been holding.
I think I remember what you meant, but still, we worked with a sentence there.
Yeah.
Could be. Sometimes that sentence is really clear, so yeah, use that.
Okay.
Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's so much, and you can feel it, and it's like, and you see this person in front of you saying like, oh, please let me be free from this. And it's like, right. But then to use all of that energy, to not have to pinpoint that one specific sentence. And if the sentence is there, sometimes the sentence can be at the front end. So they start speaking, and there's one sentence, and the sentence is, let's stay with failure. I'm a failure. You know, it's like, or life has failed me, or, you know, whatever it is. And then everything shows up, and it's like, wow, it's all linked to that same sentence. Use that sentence. Fine. But then include all of it. Just really feel yourself, even in yourself, including all of that energy, to allow it to come. Be part of that, because it's usually creating.
We'll work further on in the process with this phrase, I'm a failure. Because we use the dogma through the whole process until he let go. So you will use this general sentence.
You can. Yeah. I will repeat that sentence, if that sentence has been there, and I said, plus everything else that's linked to it. Every experience that has been related to it. All your emotions, your memories, your beliefs, your values, everything that's linked to that. Knowing that you're done with it, knowing that you feel like you want to unsubscribe from it. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so I would use that to give it back to them, so they understand, yes, I am done with it, and I'm welcome it all. But sometimes it's been phenomenal to see the difference between a very subtle, you know, kind of really feeling that dogma sitting right there, and it's like it has these specific words and they don't make sense, but it's right there, and peeling that away. And sometimes it's this whole energy. You go like, holy shit, you know, that's huge. Okay, I don't care anymore about this one specific point. It's like, it's here. It's the energy that's here. Great, all of it. Let's unsubscribe from it. Give it a shape, give it a form. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are the two main things that I've been playing with more and more. So the charging and this, when that energy shows up, to welcome it all. And it's just made things sometimes quite a bit easier and more efficient in terms of how you use time and use that connection that's there. And I've even done it with myself as well. I've played with it on my own stucknesses. To, you know, sometimes when we speak out loud, it's like the mind comes in and it starts to sense, you know, edit everything. It's like, no, there's just an idea of being stuck with the body. For instance, I did that yesterday. I shared with Ursula that my body has been, you know, having pains here, pains there, because I do sports, but I haven't been taking care of it in a much gentler way. So in terms of, you know, the more yogic way, in a way, you know, to just take it easy, to flex, to stretch, all of that. And I then let myself chatter. And it was actually, there was so many different sentences, but it was like, there was this idea of being stuck or kind of restrained that I could only either go into hard sports or nothing. So then I was like, okay, all of that energy, let it come here. And then I unsubscribed from it. And my body actually had like straight muscle movements happening after that. Like literally, like it started to release stuff. So I was like, okay, something working there.
Do you do it aloud or silently?
I do that most of the time. It depends on where I'm at, where I am and who am I surrounded by. And in general, I try to do it out loud because I can hear certain things pop out, and it's like, oh. Okay. I have done it without saying it out loud, with big openings as well after that. So
usually I do it silently, but good idea.
Great. Both is possible.
Okay.
Good. That's it. That's what I wanted to share with you for the moment. Just felt nice to let you in on what else I've been doing with it. If there's anything else showing up that way, I will give you another shout. I will let you know.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's just fun. It's also fun and nice to hear you play with it and to hear what your experiences have been. So it works both ways as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I'm really thankful that you share it with us. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll send the link if it's all. Well, it seems like it's recording still. So I'll send the link to Priska as well. So she's in on.
Well?
Say again.
Can you send it to us as well?
I will.
And the new script, please.
The script, I will send that to you as well, so you got that. There have been a few little changes, as I said, also in terms of the layout, because I found that when I was training other people, that they found a certain transition a bit awkward, just because of how it was reading. So just have a look. Just minor changes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Very welcome.
Yeah.
Enjoy your holiday and good luck with the last bits and bobs before it.
And all the best for your house.
Yes, thank you very much.
That the good energy flows.
Yeah, I hope so too. It will be really, really fabulous. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye. Bye.